All right, 3, 2, 1. All right, welcome on back to another edition of the Baltimore Beatdown Podcast. It is Monday, November 22nd, 2021. My name is Jake Luke. It's Thanksgiving week, isn't it? It's a short week at work. Vibes are good. Ravens have won. They're 7-3, and that's going to give me the energy boost that I need to get through these 3 days of work. Let's just say that, because things were looking bleak there after the Miami game. Feels like we got a shot in the arm, and we did so thanks to the help of one young man by the name of Tyler Snoop Huntley. And I'm joined by another young man to break that young man's performance down, and that is Spencer Nathaniel Schultz. How's it going, pal?
Going quite well. Snoop Doggy Dogg, a.k.a. Tyler Isaiah Huntley, is a good backup quarterback.
Yeah, it would seem that way. It seems, to me...
good backup quarterback.
Yeah, to me, I had my concerns. I thought he played pretty well in the preseason. He had the 5-touchdown game. I had my concerns about the size. I had my concerns about the arm talent. It just didn't seem like he had a lot of touch on his throws in the preseason. I think
he's definitely his motion over time. He used to have kind of like a Tebow, big like
little whirly.
It was a little bit slow, and it definitely looks like that's been cleaned up a bit over time.
Yeah, it does. It looked like he's been in the lab a little bit. He's been doing some technical work. But ultimately, like, I think what it comes down to is, like, that wasn't even totally on display for much of the game. He just kind of looked overmatched for much of this game, not just from the size perspective, but just what was going on around him with the offensive line. They had a rough performance. He was sacked 6 times, I think, was the final tally. Felt like he was getting sacked disastrously like every other drive. But
there was a point about like halfway through the game, maybe early third quarter, where he was just getting assaulted.
Yeah, it was rough. It kind of felt like they were starting to key on what they needed to do, and felt like the Ravens are going to be walking out of there at 6-4 after Justin Fields had exited the game, because it felt like as long as Fields was out there, they were just going to be able to keep it in a rock fight and just kind of trade field goals, and whoever gets the last one wins. It's sort of how it ended up, but fucking Andy Dalton gets in there, and nothing makes my blood boil more than seeing Andy Dalton walk onto the field to play the Ravens, like in anxiety-ridden ways and anger ways. Andy Dalton seems like a great guy, but man, I just, as a football player, I hate that guy. And my fears were confirmed when on literally his second throw, his first play, Andy Dalton coming into the game, big play to Jimmy Graham down the left. Jimmy fucking Graham, of all people, who has a no trade clause, by the way.
Elite. 8 players in the NFL have no trade clauses. Jimmy Graham is on that list.
That's just not talked about enough. Jimmy Graham having a no trade clause. So he makes that big play down the left. And then second play was to the right, little throw to, I think, Darnell Mooney, who breaks a tackle. Big plays are an issue for this defense all year long. It reared its head there. And they go up. They go up by 1 there, 7-6. I believe after that, I think the Ravens tack on a field goal, so it's 9-7. I mean, and that was even after it looked like they were going to have a chance to score as well. But Huntley was running to his right, and it's Greg Roman's fault, of course, that he threw an interception there, that kind of bouncing off of Mark Andrews in a little bit of a weird way. So they go up 9-7. I joker laughed as soon as Andy hit Mooney for the first touchdown. Not even Matt. Yeah, exactly. It was kind of like, and like that was, I think, to really sum up my feelings on this game going into it, I was just kind of resigned. And we talked about this a little bit on Twitter, just sort of being resigned to what was going to happen and take place. It had a weird feeling to it. It felt pretty much exactly, and almost a year to the day, it felt pretty much exactly like the Wednesday night Steelers game from last year. And it sort of played out that way, but getting back to it, I mean, you get them into a 4th and 11 situation, I believe, with the Bears had 1 timeout. It was inside of 2 minutes, and you basically just have to stop them there. Wink Martindale dials up his old trusty zero blitz. Chris Westry gets caught on an island against Marquise Goodwin, who's, I believe, a track star.
He's a runner. Yeah. He's a track star. Olympian.
He is a runner and a track star, and he showed it with a little double move on Westry. Just couldn't have been more wide open. It was one of the most bizarre plays, and we've seen a lot of bizarre big plays against this Ravens defense this year and over the years via fucking Andy Dalton, and there it was. But I mean, the broadcast, the stadium, they were celebrating like they just won it. And I'm not going to say I sat there and was expecting Huntley to drive down the field, but I was like, you know what? Like a minute 45, 2
Plenty
timeouts.
of
Like,
time and a timeout, I believe.
yeah, 2 timeouts. And I was like, okay, I mean, like it's feels relatively insurmountable. I'm not expecting anything here, but it wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world. And PI to Rashad Bateman gets them to midfield. Little
Incredible release from Rashad Bateman.
yeah, a great job and a
So
great job.
clean.
Yeah, a great job to sell it, and also great defense. That could have been an interception. Like I think Deion Bush maybe he gets in there and kind of knocks it away. So
Especially after you get tugged on like that, like pretty egregiously, that's not going to, I mean, calls get missed.
yeah,
So finishing that play and playing a little defense, not letting it be it was a bit of a lollipop meatball, but finishing the play, playing defense, like you said.
yeah, and then immediately after that, I think little wheel route to Devin DuVernay.
Duvernay.
DuVernay Nance with the flourish in the bow. Love that from him. Gains like 20. I think a scramble by Huntley, and then a quick pass to Freeman, and you got a third and short. Then you have a holding call, gets them into a 3rd and 12.
Don't
And
know. I don't love. See, this is Nagy. I just feel like is in these situations where he has to make so many of these decisions in game, and that one definitely you might have wanted to go 4th and 2 there, not give them 2 chances, but it ended up not mattering.
yeah, exactly. So 4th and 2 might have been the better situation. Honestly, I was thinking about that watching the replay a little bit, but 3rd and 12, games on the line, and that's kind of where it does feel a little insurmountable because Huntley hasn't really pushed the ball for much of the game. And this wasn't even like play design. This wasn't much of anything other than a coverage bust where they did blitz some guys, but Sammy Watkins completely gets lost in the shuffle. I posted a screenshot of Tyler Huntley falling away to the right, and Watkins immediately puts his hand up. Huntley just flick of the wrist. That's one of the better, more impressive throws that I think you'll see a quarterback make. It can't be overstated how, even with Watkins being relatively open, he did have one guy in his vicinity, but
contextually too, backup quarterback on the road had some frantic play at certain points in time, pressures in his face on the run. Tough play. You know, he was open, but made a nice throw. Made a really nice throw.
It's not easy to deliver that as a second-year undrafted guy who hasn't done much throughout the game and who also got rocked after that throw. And got rocked earlier on that drive. No roughing the passer because why would there be? Andy Dalton only got one on that stupid fucking touchdown. Good for him. Great for Andy Dalton to get that call. Felt like Tyler Huntley maybe could have gotten at least one of those two that he got drilled on the next drive, but it is what it is. That is the play that he makes on 3rd and 12, gets them to the 4. Quick handoff to Devontae Freeman, and that is all she wrote. One of the more no nonsense drives that I've seen from this offense in a couple weeks because they didn't show up against Miami, and they really didn't show up for much of this game. And when they needed it, they got it. Congrats to you, Tyler Huntley.
Tyler Huntley, the man of the hour, absolutely. Sammy Watkins has now made 2 crucial, I don't know the right word, go-ahead plays that weren't scores, but allowed the offense to continue or allowed the Ravens to continue.
Kind of like a lifeboat kind of play, or a
exactly.
Life
an SOS play, if you will. And the first one being that long gain on 4th and, 19 against the Lions. So yep. Sammy Watkins has kind of been able to come through in the clutch twice against these NFC North opponents and allow the Ravens to go win games. So Watkins, rebounded from a pretty bad game last week. Comes in on a short week after missing some time and played well today. Had a couple catches throughout this one. I think he had like 3 or 4 catches. So got to give some credit there. And Huntley had the moxie, man. He just has things that I want in a backup quarterback. Cliches that can't be measured. Moxie, grit, toughness, winning, competitive, blah, blah, blah. And I like when they're mobile. And I think Huntley showed kind of just that competitive spirit. He didn't buckle in adversity throughout this game. There was definitely a low lull, I want to say, in the 3rd quarter. You mentioned the sacks and things of that nature. And he responded really well. Kept going, made mistakes, missed some throws. He was carrying the ball like a loaf of bread, gets stripped at one point early in the game. Definitely made mistakes, but hung in there as tough as he possibly could. And to go off of what the good gentleman of Pardon My Take say, he should fake an injury and like retire now and see if he can go get like a $20 million 5-year contract somewhere.
Yeah, moxie, grit, kind of all the correct words. Really is just kind of the garden variety Lamar Jackson, isn't he? He's a little bit smaller. He's doesn't have quite as strong of an arm. I don't think he's got a pretty strong arm for his size, but he not as quite as strong of an arm. Not quite as fast, but he's pretty fast. Not quite as agile, but he's pretty agile. Like he's just kind of like a mini me version of Lamar Jackson, which I kind of like, and I think it serves him well to maybe stick around here if that's what he wants to do. If he wants to maybe try and go carve out a starting career somewhere, or try to be one of those fringe backup starter type guys throughout the league. That would probably be on the table for him after a performance like this, because the PMT guys are right in that all you have to do is string together like one drive, one performance, and as long as it's to win, that buys you a lot of
your agent's got some traction to run with. They got 30 seconds of highlights, and they're open. Their phone's open for business.
Yep, exactly, and he's got the big preseason performances to back it up. So he might have just earned himself a long-term career here after today. So good on him for that, and good on these receivers, these masters of the air. Eric DeCosta just completely has rebuilt this receiver room. It can't be overstated how important some of these moves he's made. Marquise Brown misses today. Rashad Bateman steps in. Sammy Watkins steps in. Mark Andrews is still there. Nick Boyle is coming back today. Devin Duvernay making clutch play after clutch.
Devin Duvernay is good at football.
He really is.
He's generally, he has the speed. He has, he's got some thickums. He's got some explosiveness. He is a competitor. Didn't love, he made one little mental error. There was a short play or a 3rd and 10. I think they throw him a screen and he kind of didn't extend himself past the marker effectively. But other than that, he makes plays, man. I really like Duvernay as a role player on this team. I think he has some niches and some certain concepts and things, and he's going to continue to grow and expand in that role. His usage can increase. And I think it was a really nice game for Hollywood to be able to sit out, and hopefully his injury is not something that's completely debilitating. I imagine since he was questionable that there was a good shot he could have gone, but just wasn't in the cards. But getting Bateman, getting Tylan Wallace some reps in this game on the big Sammy Watkins catch late in the game. He was also wide open. Getting all those guys some reps was really nice. And it was a great thing to see. James Prochet active, and I haven't seen a replay of that play. I was kind of buzzing around, but Jalen Ferguson and him bust through and tip a pass. They've got competitors in that wide receiver room. Overall, they've got guys that have that competitive spirit, that fight a little bit more than we've seen in years past. And I think they just have a little bit more competent football intelligence overall than they've had. So like you were saying, shout out to Eric DeCosta. He's put together a nice receiver room that was capable of surviving without Hollywood Brown today, despite having a backup quarterback.
It's just straight up talent. Like they're just more talented. Like they pulled Dez Bryant off the scrap heap last year.
And he scored 2 touchdowns, I think, too.
Miles Boykin was effectively their number 2 wide receiver last year. He can't even sniff the field on offense this year. These guys are so much better than where
he was their number 1 boundary receiver.
He was, yeah. And that's a disaster. Like nothing against Miles, but like it didn't work out. And these guys, like from top to bottom, it's like one guy goes down, well, you got 2 others ready to go that are hungry and want to make plays. Like Duvernay, Bateman, like there's no nonsense about it with Bateman. Like people, us included, were right about this guy. This guy is the real deal, and he is everything that the Ravens have needed at this position for the past 25 years that they just have not been able to find. Based upon what I've seen, I'm pretty sure that they got a good one here. Sammy Watkins is exactly what you need in a spot like that. He's the veteran who's going to make those big plays in those big spots. Hollywood Brown is kind of the do-it-all number 1 receiver in effect this year. And just young guys, Prochet, Wallace, like you mentioned, guys that are just, have all the talent in the world, and some of them have already stepped up in some ways. The revamping of this receiver room has been what has kept them in these insane games this season. Emphasizing the passing game, emphasizing being able to make plays through the air, and just kind of rethinking the way, not that you play football on offense necessarily, but just, giving yourself a new dimension. It's something
having more balanced roster construction on offense.
Yeah, exactly. And like that, it was probably a hard thing for them to do, to accept that they really needed to start emphasizing this a lot more, because they had gone against investing in wide receiver for 25 years, like I said, and it worked for them. Won a couple Super Bowls doing that, but we're just in a different spot with the league right now. It's just, you have to have guys that are able to make plays here. And I think ultimately, the whole like Lamar Jackson doesn't have help thing, I think we've been pushing back against that all year at this point. I think this game pretty much proves it, that like they have guys up and down this receiver room that that can get it done. So I think ultimately what I'm walking away from this game thinking is they did what they had to do as far as the receiver room. Yeah, the offensive line is bad, and that's an issue, and that's something they're going to have to take a look at. But if they can find a way to maybe even keep Watkins in the fold, extend Hollywood Brown, I'd be pretty happy, because these guys they're doing it for me.
Certainly, and then factoring in just the general kind of skill players. So, the running back room, they've got two professionals, I would say, are the best words to describe Latavius Murray and Devontae Freeman. They get the job done. They don't do anything explosive, really. They don't do anything flashy, but they're good enough. Freeman made some nice plays in the pass game today. It seems like they streamlined him getting out into the flats quick and being that quick outlet. I think several times, especially in key situations, that helped Tyler Huntley. Really came up big time quite a few times. So then factoring in that they've also got these guys, Ricard and Andrews and Boyle. We see this awesome screen where you go with the big boy bunch, aka the trips for men, where you've got like over 800 pounds of trips between Ricard, Boyle, and Andrews. Those guys are going to be able to go block it up against anyone in the NFL. Maybe like a Jalen Ramsey or like a Eric Kendricks. Like, you're going to need an apex defender in terms of like aggression and physicality to go disrupt those two on a screen. And then you're going to have to go tackle a Mark Andrews or tackle a Nick Boyle or tackle a Patrick Ricard. Like, they're getting healthy finally in some ways. And that's why I think it was a good game, considering the outcome, that Marquise Brown wasn't there, getting all these different packages, alignments, some familiarity, putting it on the field. You can then add wrinkles on it off of what you've put on tape, things of that nature. And it was a well-balanced effort from Duvernay, from Bateman, from Watkins, from Boyle, from Andrews, from Ricard. The backs did a nice job. So all those guys really propelled this win today. Like you said, the offensive line wasn't great. I think they did a nice job in the run game. They typically do an okay job in the run game. The Dolphins kind of push their shit in a little bit, or a lot at times in the run game, but they went right back to it. And this line is pretty gritty. They've got some tough boys up front. They're not the most talented offensive line, but they're able to go execute in the run game quite well. And it was a nice overall execution from the ancillary players, kind of a lot of guys that are more role players aside from basically Mark Andrews, that had a nice day time and time again, especially in the end of the first half and then the end of the second half, the end of the game. So they performed. It feels like they're getting some good experience at a crucial time where they're about to have the real season begin, with 5 divisional games and 2 pretty quality opponents in the Rams and Packers, who have luckily looked, a bit more mortal than previously. But it's going to be interesting. Garnett chiming in here, definitely agree. Boyle looked stiff. Yeah, he had the Huntley gives him a little bit of a duck, and it goes off his hands, and then he immediately started blocking the guy as soon as he dropped it. So I think it's going to take a little while to get him ramped up. But we saw some good blocks. He wasn't killing anyone, but his ability to just leverage guys, do his job, seal outside, seal inside, wherever the concept's going, is a nice return, and just adds another dynamic blocking player. Having him and Ricard is just going to be such a joy down the stretch if Boyle can knock some rust off here in the next couple of weeks and then going into December. So it was a really fun performance from this offense, considering, like you said, and the point that I wanted to get back to overall about this game, we'll get into defense and everything, but we, at the beginning of the day, you and I, we started tweeting out a little bit. We were going to remove ourselves from the have to win part of this game and consider it, a great luxury to win this game and an understandable loss. The comedic factors in this game, the big boy bunch, the punt block, Andy Dalton, Tyus Bowser has the game of the year for him and knocks Justin Fields out of the game. So they bring in the Red Rifle, who has diced up the Ravens. He is the perfect quarterback to play against the Ravens because he throws the ball. It's not even just against the Ravens. He gets the ball out in one-step throw every single time.
I that's what I really started to notice about him. I didn't really know what it was with all those years, because maybe I just kind of desensitized myself to him, but he gets it out so freaking quick, and guys making plays after the catch are kind of going to be the coup de grace to that. So we saw that with Mooney, and then but the problem with the 4th and 11 though was that they sent the house. Nobody gets home. I don't know how much time he had to throw, but it felt like way more than a few seconds, and he just launches one
and
up.
Romo went back, and I will say, Brandon Stevens has been propelled into a role that the Ravens might not have wanted him in this early in his career, but he's getting, trial by combat, trial by fire. whatever you want to call it. And on that play, he had a lane and he didn't take it. And the premise there is that you don't want Andy Dalton to be able to hold the ball. And he ended up being able to hold the ball because of some error there. So he's able to float one over top. Chris Westry, I get the thought process. You could definitely argue, hey, drop 8. At the end of the game, they end up dropping 11 because they wanted them to hold the ball, which I thought was funny. That's such a classic little Harbaugh thing. Like the punt team goes and holds. Oh, we're going to rush 0. You have 10 seconds left, so we're going to make sure you hold it until there's at least 4 seconds left, and you'll be outside of field goal range with your very bad kicker. So some funny things like that. But the 0, Greg Roman, people call them stubborn. I've called them stubborn. I think they are stubborn, but they are also just they have big dick play calling. They are extremely confident in their process, their thought process. Defensively, Wink Martindale thinks I have a 6'4" cornerback and Marlon Humphrey that are long, fast press corners. They can hopefully disrupt at the stem or disrupt at the line of scrimmage. And then I'm going to send pressure, see if I can get the quarterback off platform and force him to make a spectacular play. Didn't work out. Offensively, Roman's going to use those motions in the run game, and he's going to use that run game to try and create some numbers disadvantages and things of that nature. So those guys are stubborn. Definitely. They call plays with big balls, I'd say, certainly as well. So they're willing to live and die by their process. They're willing to live and die by their philosophies as well. And that's what it is. And when it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It's not going to work every single time, but they were able to have some sort of balance. The Ravens defense overall, I guess, switching over to that side of the ball today. Someone asked in here, they didn't get to see the game. I believe it was a gentleman by the name of Troy T in the comments here. I missed the game today. Did the Bears offense do anything consistently or just a couple big plays? They had like 2 home runs and maybe 2 or 3 chunk gains and nothing else the entire day.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. It was the Mooney play and it was the Goodwin touchdown. It was nothing else. It was nothing else. They didn't
score from inside the red zone. The Ravens' red zone defense has been outstanding the last couple of weeks. It's just those big plays in space.
It's like, and like people are talking about, and sorry to cut you off there, but
no,
like
go.
People talking about like, and I think I even saw Cole say that like the defense sucks, but like, X, Y, and Z. And like, I have a hard time agreeing with the fact that like they suck. Like they're definitely not great. They might not even be good. They inexplicably give up a lot of big plays. There's not a ton of pass rush, even despite like, some of the improvements I think we've seen in that regard in the last couple of weeks. They have their fair share of issues, but they're just not giving up that many points. Like that's kind of what I'm struggling with. And granted, they're not playing against like some of the high-powered offenses on offer.
They played 2 pretty crappy offenses.
Yeah, but they're doing what they have to do. So I can't really get into that. And I think back to the coordinator thing that you were saying there, like I hated that play call on 4th and 11. If, I'm Wink, I'm just trying to like play the sticks, keep him in front of me, make the tackle and get out of town.
That logic is there too. I get the logic. And a lot of people come as like, you're defending. I'm just trying to say what the logic is there. And I can understand either way.
I totally agree. And I think you're right on with that. And like I'm a process-based guy. I try to be. And so I get that. Like you stick to your process. Sometimes it doesn't work, and that's just going to be that. You got to learn to live with it, and that is just life. But I'm also going to say, like, if you're one of these people, and like do what you want ultimately, but like if you're one of these people that is freaking out about the coordinators the last couple of weeks and is like making it your mission to try to get these guys fired, whether it's one or the other or both, and after this game, after this win, you're tweeting about Wink Martindale needs to go. You're tweeting about Greg Roman needs to go. It's like, I just feel like you're missing the point of like why we watch sports. Like we just watched an undrafted 2nd-year quarterback who looked undersized, looked undermatched, go on a game-winning drive to win a game 16-13 on the road. He found out he was going to be starting this morning, I'm pretty sure. And you're bitching about the coordinators. They're missing half of their starters, like probably to an extent on both sides of the ball. And you're bitching about the coordinator. Like, can we just take a week off from that? Like we got tweeted about Roman 2 drives into the game or something like that. And like the guy who tweeted at us came back and said like, yeah, that was maybe a little reactionary. So I get it. So like, I'm just telling you for like your enjoyment of the sport, maybe just table the coordinator stuff for a little while. Cause like, they're not going anywhere, not until the offseason, probably at this point. I don't think Wink is going anywhere anytime soon. So if that's going to be your block, that's fine. But that's going to be your block for a while, and you're just going to be miserable watching this team.
Talk to a Washington football. Talk to a Washington football team fan.
Talk to a lot of fans, and
talk to a Chicago Bears fan. It's like you watch this team without QB1, RB1, RB2, wide receiver 1, left tackle 1, Brandon Williams, Derek Wolfe, Deshaun Elliott, Anthony Averett, Marcus. All these guys are out. You watch them win a game and then are displeased with the result. And it's not, I mean, do whatever you want, to quote Goldmember. Well, I guess then there is no pleasing you then. I don't know what to tell you, but it doesn't seem very fun to me. So I implore our listeners to appreciate some of this parody, to appreciate some of these wacky things that occur. Like, it's exhilarating. It is fun. And they're also winning. They're 7-3, man. Despite everything that is going on, they continue to push on. And I think we haven't talked about John Harbaugh enough. Number one, a guy that took responsibility after the loss that they took in Miami versus Matt Nagy. I think we touched about that in the preview. That's a good coach, takes all the blame, walks into it. That's a guy you want to play for, and then has his entire team decimated. Not that the Bears didn't. They were without some stars as well, but goes on the road and gets a very much needed win. And the fact that Lamar Jackson wasn't in, it felt like they would have been able to rock and roll better today. Who knows? Maybe that's not the case, whatever, but they would have been able to rock and roll, but they didn't have that. They were able to make adjustments on the fly. They basically sounds like they thought that on Friday, Lamar's playing. So today, yesterday, he's super sick. He's crawled up in a ball on the plane, blah, blah, blah. Everyone's talking about that. He's sick. He can't play. They did a good job, I thought. There were some nice schemed throws for Huntley. They did a good job overall. This defense did let up big plays, but one of them was a freaking 3-on-3 screen, and Brandon Stevens just comes flying in out of control, misses a tackle. Darnell Mooney, a very shifty player, made him miss as well, and houses it. Like, I get it. And people don't want to live. Think about who this defensive coordinator is and just relax. He used to drive trucks for a living. He's a big dude with a mullet who wears Ricky Henderson Oakleys, loves the blitz, loves to play positionless football. And what do you think he's going to do if he's playing a game of poker? If he's in the final hand, all in. He's going to push the chips to the middle table. He's going to make you beat him. And that's what they're doing. They're trying to force teams to beat them. Today, the pendulum swung that way. And, Westry got beat. The pressure didn't get home. The pressure didn't go, Brandon Stevens doesn't go sprint through a gap and hit Andy Dalton. And he was able to make an accurate throw. So pendulum swung that way. But guess what? They were able to pull it out regardless. Like you said, everyone it felt like everyone was like, oh, they scored a touchdown with 1 minute and 50 seconds left. There's no way the Ravens are going to score a touchdown. And then they did. So be happy, have some fun, enjoy football. It is a game at the end of the day. So live it up, enjoy this time, enjoy this season, take it for what it is, remove yourself from those negative things at times and have a little fun. That's all I have to say.
Exactly. Like, just, if that's your complaint, that's okay. Feel your anger, feel your whatever, do what you got to do. But like, just the constantly harping on it, knowing that nothing is going to change, and maybe nothing should change, because we posted this tweet to our Instagram from Pete Gilbert. Imagine if I told you in August the Ravens would win a game at Chicago without Lamar Jackson, Hollywood Brown, J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, Marcus Peters, Ronnie Stanley, Anthony Averett, Jimmy Smith, Pernell McPhee, Derek Wolfe, Brandon Williams. He doesn't even mention Deshaun Elliott. Miles Boykin didn't play either. That's kind of, whatever, fringe. But man, it's just pretty remarkable to me what this coaching staff has been doing. And they're not perfect. The fourth down call, I had my issues with. Some of the Roman stuff I have my issues with at times, but like, I don't know. I think people are letting perfect be the enemy of good a little bit. I think this fan base has been brainwashed by the fact that Cam Cameron was public enemy number one here for a while. He gets fired. Jim Caldwell comes in. He wins a Super Bowl, and all of a sudden you feel vindicated. And all of a sudden that is your ace up your sleeve. If you're a Ravens fan every single year, so I'll fire the coordinator, because there's a precedent for that winning a Super Bowl. That doesn't really happen very often, guys. Like, I'm just telling you. And especially like if you're comparing this offense right now, when it's firing on all cylinders, to the Cam Cameron offenses back in the day, I'm just telling you, you're probably misremembering things a little bit.
Well, Jake, they've only scored one touchdown in the last 7 quarters, or blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. Yep.
So, and we get a comment here. Westry wasn't playing press on there. He was playing off and still bit on the double move. You're right. He wasn't playing press, but he was trying to sit at the stem and disrupt the route and wasn't able to and got beat.
I feel like
And
you're almost more susceptible.
what does that say about Chris Westry? What is, if you're Chris, let's say that the pendulum swings the other way. Let's say that Wink said, okay, I'm going to play conservatively. And could that have worked? Absolutely. Is there logic there? Yes. Sit back in too high, play some zone or some 2-man, whatever. Go rush with 4. Let's say that they do that and it doesn't work. It's not guaranteed to work or not work. Could go either way. Certainly could have been effective. As a player, what do you want? He had faith in Chris Westry, man. They kept this guy around and they clearly keep giving him time, giving him run last week and this week once he's returned. So they put trust into Chris Westry. So they said, Chris Westry, 6'4", runs 4.3, very physical corner that has length and has, the ability to recover on some deep stuff if he gets beat. Hey, man, we're going to go put you on an island and let you go try and win this game. They are pushing their chips in. That is their attitude. So to continue to fight against it and bitch and moan about it is just like, okay, it's falling on deaf ears ultimately. I hear you. You don't like the logic. Got it. That's like you said, Jake. Got it. Here it is. I can agree. I can see your point. But have some fun. Stop harping on that stuff. It's
just like my only problem with it is just like the zero-sum nature of it. You can say like that was bad. That was bad result. That was even a bad process.
But guess what happens if they do what I said? They drop back into coverage. They drop 7, rush 4, and get beat. Oh, why didn't you blitz?
There's too often a leap from that to immediately fire him.
Right.
Like that's just where like if you want to complain about it, that's totally fine. But like what is often happening here, and maybe I'm misinterpreting, maybe people aren't really saying this, but I just get the feeling that I think people want these guys just fucking run out of town, and I'm just like, man, like I don't know. We've had this discussion so many times in the last like 2 years. I mean, it didn't really happen in 2019, but pretty much since the beginning of 2020. Boom, grabbing rim.
Who wants to see me grab rim?
Pretty much since the beginning of 2020. It just feels like we've been having these discussions, and I'm just, I don't know, guys. Like I'm kind of burnt out on them, and I'm not having them after a game like this. And a day like this,
moratorium.
It was fun. Yeah, moratorium. Game like this, day like this, that was fun. Celebrate these types of games and just kind of take them for what they're worth. 7-3. Hey, what's up, Bailey? Just enjoy football.
We are witnessing I'm just going to say it. I think I've already said it again, like a team of destiny type season. Some crazy stuff has happened. Tucker, 66 yards, Adafe away, punches a ball out. The Ravens come back from down whatever the Colts score was, 22-3 or whatever the hell it was. The Vikings game, down again. They've had some crazy moments. And if you want to be the person who says, oh, fire the offensive coordinator, it worked in 2012. Well, what worked in 2012? Hey, diddle, Ray Rice running fucking 17 yards after the catch, making a bunch of guys miss, and getting away with Anquan Bolden absolutely ass-blasting Eric Weddle and on a block in the back. Like,
Justin Tucker maybe not actually making a kick against the Patriots in week 2.
Right.
What else happened? Like, so much shit happened. Like, what they were 9-2.
The Mile High Miracle.
Yeah,
that was what Jim Caldwell drew up. The Mile High Miracle. He drew that one up. All right, Raheem Moore is going to misplay this ball. It's going to float. It's going to drift. He's going to forget that he's in Denver. Forget about that trajectory based on no, man.
And we don't need to rewrite that. I mean, Jim Caldwell absolutely was the right guy, and he did
a great job. Yes, but at the same time, it could have gone at any. There were so many moments it could have ended.
Brian, you're not talking about the left tackle is probably just as big of a move, honestly. And
exactly.
We don't have anyone they can move to left tackle this year. That ain't happening. So
for sure. So all of this stuff is relative. It's all shades of gray. There's no black. There's no white. The Ravens are 7-3. Their offense is like second or third in the NFL in yards. They've struggled in some situations. They got beat by the Dolphins. But guess what? They went on the road without like freaking 11 of their projected starters this year in Chicago into a cold, windy day and got it done when they needed to at the end of a game heading into playing 5 out of 7 games or divisional games. So be happy. I'm happy. This was awesome. I was so excited throughout this game. Enjoy it as a fan. Could they make improvements? Yes. Do they make mistakes? Yes. Just move on. I don't know what you want at this point.
Yeah, I think like probably I'm probably more willing to give them a pass because I'm just in awe of what they're doing in spite of all the injuries. So like I just feel like contextualize
Jimmy
that.
Dean makes a great point here. I think the idea was to force the issue and not be nicked and dimed into giving up a field goal. Still gave the Ravens a shot to go back and score. Not that he agrees with the call. Exactly. You sit back, you rush for. Andy Dalton ends up getting a 13-yard completion. They run the clock out, kick a field goal. That's another aspect of it. There's so many things that we can't possibly even like. I didn't even have that original thought. Someone on this podcast commenting as a listener has it at 9:27 p.m. That's something they could have thought about at 3:47 when it was happening.
Exactly.
Press the issue. Push your chips to the middle of the table. Make them make a play.
Exactly.
That's the logic.
Mailbag time?
Mailbag time. Exactly. Kelly McCoy. How many first-round picks can the Ravens get for Tyler Huntley? Probably 6 or 9. I don't know.
You got to think at least somewhere between 6 and 9.
Exactly.
Skipjack. Always the optimist. Isn't it nice to watch these games calm and serene in the knowledge that we will definitely find a way to win, and all these setbacks are minor obstacles that will inevitably be overcome? It is very calming.
It is very calming. Just I'm serene.
I think you might have already answered this one from our boy TC. Would love to hear at Ravens for Dummies go over some of the numbers regarding those all-out blitzes that leave our depleted secondary exposed at the most inopportune moments. Feels like the data would tell us to stop doing it. What'd you come to on that, to put a bow on that?
On 3rd and 4th down, the Ravens have sent 6 or more pass rushers 10 times. Opposing teams have completed 2 passes for 11 yards and 1 first down. So they've done it 10 times, allowed 1 first down. So if you want to look at the result, pretty good. When the Ravens have blitzed this season, they have allowed a 54% completion rate, which is 9 points lower than the league average completion percentage. So again, it's pushing the issue. That's their philosophy. You might not agree with it. That's okay. You don't have to agree with it. And people are saying there, they trust Chris Westry. They trusted him to make a play. He made a couple plays in this game. He had like 2 pass breakups. He got pushed off by Darnell Mooney on one. He fought through. I think it was Mooney again, tried to make that levitating one-handed catch. He fought through that one. He got beat today, but they put trust in that guy. They think he's a talented player. And I get it. He's not Marcus Peters. You can say something like, oh, well, you can do that with Marcus Peters, but not with him. But they have trust in their guys. That is what you want as a player. It's
also not like it's never worked. Like in 2018, they win the division based on making that call against Baker Mayfield. 2019, they win in Buffalo, I think, making a similar call.
Exactly. On Marcus Peters on John Brown at the end of the game. Exact same play. John Brown ran a slant instead of a sluggo. So got beat on the double move. Live and learn. He's less experienced than Marcus Peters was. They're not the same player, like I said, but they're confident in their philosophy. So continuing to fight against that, you're just continuing to make yourself miserable for the sake of it, essentially, by continuing to fight it. The logic's there. They've had success with it. They trust their process. They trust their players. The players like that they are trusted, And think about the Colts game. They had a depleted secondary. And what happened at the end of that game? They sat back in 2 high, played zone, and got picked the fuck apart and lost. As a player, that feels pretty shitty.
Exactly. Jordan, if Lamar has the worst stomach ache in human history and misses the rest of the season, what percentage chance would you give this team to make the playoffs with Huntley going forward? I'd say like 40%.
I think they could win 2 or 3 games.
You would have to. I think the ceiling is like 3 more wins, and I think that might do it. But
I think the ceiling would be 4, and I think that 2 or 3 would be like the 25% to 75% outcomes. And the lowest outcome would be 1 win.
Yeah, I just feel like they can paperclip it together to an extent, and maybe get one here and nick another one there. So yeah, it's not great, but I think it's more to say about the coaching staff. I just think they've done a great job in the face of so many injuries already this year. I think this is just kind of another good example of it.
It reminds me of that This reminded me of that Steelers matinee game last year.
Exactly,
and they hung in that game,
thing, except a different result.
Exactly. And they hung in that game. They were able to pick off Ben Roethlisberger, hang tough in the red zone, hung tough throughout that entire game, made it a game at the very end, score a long touchdown, a little bit different, more guys out, very strange game overall, but that showed this coaching staff's ability to put guys in the right place and get it done.
Daniel B, does this team cause heart disease more than any other team you've watched? I feel like I'm going to need a stent after this season. Yeah, no, it's not been great for the old ticker. I'll say that. I feel like there's been multiple games where I've just felt my heart beating out of my chest at the end.
This season This is where we need Vaz, because he would probably would have an exact season where they played a ton of close games. But I think Kyle shared in the Baltimore Beatdown group Jameson Hensley's tweet: in rallying to beat the Bears today, the Ravens became the 4th team in the last 40 seasons to record 5 or more fourth quarter comeback wins in their first 10 games. Baltimore joins the 1982 Raiders, the 2009 Colts, and the 2016 Lions. So they are the cardiac kids for sure.
Yeah, and I know Lamar didn't play this game, but god damn it feels good that we're not going to have to hear about this 10-point deficit BS narrative anymore.
Just check that one off.
Garrett, who should be the Bears' next coach? Somebody who's just not an asshole and like knows how to like be a leader.
Be enemy.
Yeah, sure. He seems like a nice guy.
Joe Brady.
Yeah, maybe. I'm liking Joe Brady's Twitter game.
Brian Dabble.
Yep, another one.
Dable.
Yeah, just basically all the candidates we've already been hearing about for years. Josh Elliott, 2012 to 2013 vibes. Kind of.
Team of Destiny stuff. That's what I'm saying. Ray Rice. What else did they have that season? A ton of stuff, man.
It was the Torrey Smith game. New England. That was week 2. Yeah,
we already touched on all that. Mile High Miracle, all kinds of crazy stuff. The Super Bowl was decided on the last 2 plays of the game.
Yeah. Jonathan Evans, best Thanksgiving side and worst Thanksgiving side. I gotta, your boy fucks with some stuffing, so I'm gonna go best for that. Worst, I'm not a sweet potato guy. I know a lot of people are, but I'm not.
I can do some yams, some sweet potatoes. I like my 2 best are probably cornbread and mashed potatoes. I also like cranberry sauce. I don't know. I can do without. I make a nice dish that is Brussels sprouts with bacon and feta cheese baked in a pan, and then I do a little balsamic glaze on it. So that's one of my favorites as well. I don't really have any hate for any Thanksgiving sides.
Yeah, it's just I feel like there's enough on offer that you can just pick the sides that you like, and you don't really have to like worry about the sides that you don't like. I have my ones that I avoid, but I don't have to eat anything I don't.
I always give everything a taste. Give everything a little tasty taste.
Yeah, maybe I'll try to get more into that this year. DJ and K, Ravens Twitter will be tolerable this week. That is all. And then Stewart follows up for him. A spare thought for Bears fans, though. If we thought the Fire Roman crowd was toxic, I can't even imagine what the Nagy crowd is like for the Bears. Yeah, so that's kind of like maybe feeding into like the take a look at some of these other fan bases thing with this kind of stuff. And let me tell you, I think it's pretty warranted in Chicago because I think Matt Nagy has fostered an environment of negativity and toxicity. And based upon the reports of people that were at the game sympathetic to the Ravens, it sounds like it was just a freaking morgue out there. Even like when it was supposed to be celebratory, like the tailgate and stuff, just kind of a dead environment. Dead and quietly angry, which are just bad combinations ultimately.
Agreed. I think the Bears fans are just inconsolable. They are dead. They're dead inside. They just want anything they can get out of Justin Fields is a plus. And I mean, Big Cat, I feel like summarizes the feelings in Chicago overall very well.
Yeah, well, you really hate this for Big Cat, who has spent the last 2 years of PMT waging a holy war against the Ravens, calling them frauds, hating on Lamar Jackson. Hate that for you, Big Cat. Dan Cold. I generally think the play calling was fine, but there were a few runs on second and short. Agree that's silly.
Runs on second and short. That's like one of the new favorite analytics fun facts is that you should take a deep shot on second down every single time. But
I mean, that's like common sense, I feel like. But like in a game like this, I feel like you're kind of just taking your yards where you get them,
You want to keep the defense. You want to, keep applying that physical factor. We heard that comment or that, I guess, quote from Brandon Staley in an interview a couple months ago about the physical aspect of running the ball and how you want to set up sequencing later in the game. And there's a lot to it. Definitely, I mean, it makes sense to go try and attack, but then guess what? If you throw an interception, then what happens? What does everyone say? Why didn't you just run the ball? So it's like a lose-lose situation no matter what you fucking call. If it doesn't work, everyone complains.
Jonathan, who had the Thanksgiving side earlier, follows up with, If Lamar/Hollywood/Andrews were a Thanksgiving food, what would they be and why? And then Charlie follows up and says Lamar is alcohol because he can get you through anything.
I like that little end there. I would say Mark Andrews is the turkey. He's that meaty boy. He's the one that holds
Very
it all
solid.
together.
He's going to show up for you.
He's going to be there every time. He's going to give you 100%. He's always going to be there. He's always going to be a part of the game plan. He's always going to show up. Marquise Brown, I would say he's the cranberry sauce. He's just that sweetness. He's not one-dimensional, but he just adds a little different element than pretty much anything else on your plate does in terms of what he can do with his jitterbug, route running, and speed, and how unique he is as a player. I guess Bateman was the other one. So Bateman will go with mashed potatoes, man.
But we can name him.
Bateman's the mashed potatoes to me. You just need that on your plate. He balances the whole plate.
Very solid, very balanced. Yeah.
He brings your whole plate together. He's, you can get the turkey in there. You can get the cranberry sauce in there, the mashed potatoes. It's a nice medium for the cranberry sauce and the turkey.
And Tyler Huntley is stuffing because he only shows up once a year and he's fucking amazing.
Boom.
Lamar Bateman, what are your score predictions if Lamar and Hollywood are 100% today and on the field? I was thinking about this. If even just Lamar played, this would have been a bloodbath.
I think it would have been a straight bloodbath. I think that Huntley can show a nice little couple things for Lamar to take away from this game if he feels like it or not. Just one of the things that I like that Huntley did was, how many times have we seen lately when that free rusher comes and Lamar tries to pump them and then throw around them, and then the throw is off and the timing is off and the receiver has to stop. Huntley definitely missed some passes, but I like that he stood tall and tried to throw over top of those defenders. And, he's releasing the ball like 8.5, 9 feet in the air, getting it over them, making them have to really make it a spectacular play, trying to keep it in rhythm. I like that from Huntley. And then I like just kind of the timing. I thought he had some nice quick passes. I thought he was playing in rhythm a bit, and he was inaccurate, but he was playing within the rhythm of the offense. He was pressing a little bit when he should have, he was rushing when he should have been dragging, rushing when he should have been dragging, my rushing. And I think he showed some nice things, but Lamar definitely would have clowned on him a little better. I think he would have extended some more plays, and I think that they would have found the end zone one or two more times.
Yep. Kelly Patrick McCoy, no question, just hate Andy Dalton. And then Anthony Bozeman, this made me laugh out loud. He followed up below him. I'm sick of this shit! ! #fire Nagy. He doesn't follow us. I don't know who this gentleman is, but you feel for him.
You absolutely do.
And yes, I hate Andy Dalton too as a player. Seems like a gem of a guy, but man, he has just brought me so much.
He's dead to the Ravens. The Ravens, like you said, the funniest tweet of the day might have been, why can't I think of his name? Gordon. PFF Gordon tweets and says, of course it's Andy Dalton, something along those lines. And you said that the Ravens were out there. You said get in loser were hunting Horcruxes.
Oh yeah. That's one Horcrux down. And listen, you talk about some of these the 10-point, deficit can't come back. There's a Horcrux, as my watch goes off in the background there. Andy Dalton, that's a Horcrux. Closing in on some of these Horcruxes. Jim, wide receivers looking good. Horcrux.
Jim Duvernay, Jim. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, Jim.
Justin Fields. This is exactly what you want in a pro quarterback every time he drops back. Jim, I don't know. I was getting to be a little. He was laying it on a little thick.
He's just really played into his own character.
I think so. But it's okay. And listen, it was nice to hear them. I think people love to freak out about the broadcast teams. I don't really care, but it is nice to get to go to the A team every once in a while.
You get pissed. No, you get pissed at broadcast teams. Yeah, you do. You got pissed at the Lamar.
Oh no, I'm not saying what I'm saying is I don't care that I don't see it as a sign of disrespect that the networks don't give us Romo.
Well, they're the A team. Romo and Nance are the A team for CBS, and it's just ironic that it was a
but Ravens fans seem to take it personally that we get jabronis every week, and I don't. It was really just the Greg Gumbel thing. I just kind of it was kind of time to put Greg Gumbel out to
pasture,
metaphorical pasture there.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was really just him. Zev Moses, performance from Westry didn't seem encouraging for the future. What did you guys see with him?
Yeah, I mean that play, he got beat. I think that he even had the outside leverage, and we'll have to go back and watch, but Marquise Godwin made a hell of a play. Goodwin, pardon me, made a hell of a play, and he got beat, man. He also got pushed off on by Mooney, I think, at one point on a deep ball, and he also made a couple plays. So again, I just think him and Brandon Stevens, they're going to have to rely on those guys. I think they find that those are both extremely talented players. We've seen really nice plays out of them. Brandon Stevens has really impressed me in the red zone at times, but they're still making mistakes. They're very inexperienced. They are not, top 10 pick guys. Brandon Stevens, a convert. And I can absolutely understand if someone says, I would like to see some more Geno Stone. I would like to go back and look at Geno Stone's performance in the last 2 games. It feels like they like to have Stevens in the box when they use some dime looks. And then send Stone out there. It feels like he's a little bit more safe back there. So I don't hate that. And I definitely understand if people have that point of view. But Westry has no game experience, man. He's played in 3 games, I think, this year, and then like 1 more in his career, if that. So continuing to gain that experience. Marlon's going to talk to him. I'm sure that the whole crew is going to talk to him about it, what to do next time, how to queue up and see, and where to look and where you need to keep your eyes, and how to disrupt it more, and things of that nature. So you could definitely even argue that it's worth it to hold there. But like there was a comment earlier, it ended up being a good thing. They got the ball back and were able to go score because of it. So it seemed like the end of the world at the time. It was a silver lining. They got the ball back with plenty of time, but he needs to improve from today. I think him and Stevens were the 2 kind of, as Peter King would put it, GOATs, not greatest of all time, but GOATs of the week for the Ravens. Probably those 2. And they need to learn from today because they're going to be needed down the stretch. And ultimately, that's the nature of the situation. They have to keep trotting those guys out there, and they're going to have to continue to improve and gain that experience.
Yeah, I think I almost like Westry more in press or soft coverage there, as opposed to being 11, 12 yards off, whatever he was. Because I feel like that gives him more of a chance to use his physicality and maybe gain some leverage, as opposed to just being like a 6'4" guy out in space with Marquise Goodwin, able to just do a double move and absolutely put him in a clown suit. So yeah, I just felt like that was kind of a weird fit for him there. Again, didn't love the play call, all that stuff. We've already kind of gone into that. And then Derek Big Sam adds something we've kind of already covered this, but he says, why do the coordinators, mostly G-Row, get so much hate? Is there anything they can do to please Ravens fans? I feel like
win 45-0.
Yeah, there are some people that are just so dug deep into the strengths that they're just never coming out of it.
It reminds me of Game of Thrones and the disappointment that people had. And of course, it did get kind of condensed and whatever, especially after they got past the books. But people just have all these theories on what they think is going to happen. This guy is going to end up sitting on the throne because this, and this, and they think that this is going to happen and that's going to happen. And they've been talking about it for years. So they just get deeper and deeper. And when whatever they want to happen doesn't happen, they can't accept it. And it stings way worse when, there's a bad episode or there's a bad game and you see that, you wanted them to run the ball, or you wanted them to take the deep shot on 2nd down, or you wanted them to play conservatively on this down, and yada, yada, yada. I just really, the selective memory, I get it. I think as a passive fan, you look at the cover 0 and you can really only remember it when it doesn't work, is the thing that really drives me crazy, because it has worked so many times. You mentioned a couple of them. Bills a couple years ago, Browns a couple years ago, some very key situations, time and time again. It is part of the Ravens' identity. Rex Ryan has done it. They are notoriously an aggressive, physical, blitzing team. It is part of who they are as a fucking franchise. And people just won't stop fighting the identity of the Baltimore Ravens. And ultimately, it's on John Harbaugh. He likes it. He wants it. I think they see the numbers in it. I think there's an analytical standpoint. They are one of, if not the most analytically driven team in the NFL. And they like the numbers behind blitzing in those situations. They like the numbers behind what they do offensively with time of possession and turnovers and all of that stuff. So again, just continue to fight the good fight. If you want, go for it, whatever. I'm done with it.
Very nice. Okay. So I'm trying to pull up the IG mailbag, but I think it's lost in the shuffle as far as the likes go. So I'm having
trouble, I can grab it,
pulling it up.
Patrick Queen played a hell of a game today. I will continue to toot that horn in the meantime. Yeah. And I think that he's developed really nicely. It was interesting to see Jalen Ferguson in there. I think that they can benefit from resting guys like Pernell McPhee, guys like Jimmy Smith ultimately. And now we've got the IG mailbag up. Least frustrating game they've played in a while other than the West replay. T. Probstez, Is Yogi. A lot of comments in here. The O-line is a problem. Need to improve on big plays. Joe Boken Ninja JC says, how long is OA in the doghouse for that offsides? Terrell Suggs has done that a million times. Like he got. I
don't think defensive guys really get doghoused. I think Harb's just, I don't know if he still even does this, but I think he just likes that with running backs for some reason. And maybe he does, because look at our friend Tyson, might just be suffering from that right now.
Bingo. G Fritz 410801. Any idea how serious the injuries of Smith and Averett are? Smith, there's something lingering, and I think that this Ravens team is a lot more confident in themselves than the fan base is. And I think that they kind of might be icing McPhee and Smith and some of these veterans and reducing their roles and trying to save them for when they're going to need them in those crucial situations late in the year and make sure they're as fresh as possible. Fresh is a buzzword for Jake because he loves when players are fresh.
Oh, yeah. Listen, you talk about fresh legs in the fourth quarter. I mean, there's nothing better than that. There's nothing better than a full head of steam running back behind a shit-kicking, rip-snarling offensive line, getting downhill, just running downhill on a fresh set of legs. That is football ASMR for me.
Just makes you get those goose pimples on your skin. Ryan J. Lowry, what do the Ravens need to work on more, the O-line, the D-line, or the downfield shots? And how would you fix? For me, I would say the offensive line kind of is what it is, and they're fighting. Like, they're going to go fight defensive lines, and they're going to lose a lot, and that's I don't know what to tell you. They're just not the most talented group.
It's like hacksaw rigs. They're running out there without a gun.
Exactly. They're just fucking doing what they can. They're surviving. The D-line I think the D-line played well today. I think the D-line's played well a lot, really, to be honest. They have had a lot of sacks. Tyus Bowser, if it's not for Marlon Humphrey, has a 3-sack game today. So Marlo better get him a nice cup of coffee and some cheese noodles. So
I think what's interesting about that is I don't think the sack happens without the hold, though. Like, I feel like that's what kind of gets lost on those things a lot.
Possibly. That could definitely be true. That's a good point. Their answer for me is the big plays. That is a killer. They lost the Dolphins game on a bit. Like, the defense, it ruins their performances. Back-to-back weeks, we have watched them play a pretty masterful game overall, save a few big plays, and then the big plays, especially late, have just slaughtered them. So the answer is, I guess you could say playing more conservatively could prevent that, but then you might get picked apart. So there's something that people are definitely calling for, but experience is just going to continue to be key, continuing to tackle better. The Mooney play was atrocious, but other than that, a pretty solid day tackling, I'd say. I don't really recall any times, and we'll go look at the stats of it later on Twitter and in articles and stuff, but I don't really recall a ton of missed tackles or, David Montgomery had a couple nice runs, but nothing that was backbreaking, and Tyus Bowser had a nice tackle on Justin Fields in the open field. So just continuing to emphasize tackling, continuing to get guys to play calmly and not over pursue and not run out of their assignment or vacate their zone or do too much. It's just like the Paul Rudd in Forgetting Sarah Marshall. You just got to do it, find that nice calmness where it's natural, and that's where they need to live. And they have an issue giving up big plays. I don't know what the fix is. It's executing. I think communication. These are all very general bullshit answers, but communicating pre-snap and making sure that, hey, Albert Wilson's coming in motion. Who the fuck is covering him? Someone point at him. Someone scream or go get him yourself. So just communication, continuing to pop up, so to speak, and continuing to learn from those mistakes as they keep happening, because I guess they're just going to keep happening. So I think that one of the key metrics in terms of Super Bowl champions and very good teams overall that make playoff runs is limiting explosive plays in the passing game, and they have not done that.
Yeah, I don't think the tackling is getting fixed, because I just feel like that's like Ed Reed said to you, it's like that's a thing you're just going to do or you're not, and they've just shown more often than not that they are not going to be doing that this year. So I'm not really holding out hope that that's just going to have some sort of magical fix out of nowhere. But the big plays, like, Yeah, like that's
Like Marlon Humphrey said it best. When they miss a tackle, it goes to the house.
yeah.
Like he said, it's insane. When
And
there is one
that's
fuck up, it goes 80 yards. It has been crazy this year.
and that's what they need to avoid, I think, is the combination of those two things. It's like if you're not going to tackle individually, then like find a way to get yourself in a position where you got guys ready to clean up after you. Because there were instances today. There was I think Bynes might have
Use the sideline and understand spatially where your backup is. Where's your cavalry?
Yeah, I think Bynes might have missed on fucking Jimmy Graham at one point. I'm like, what are we doing here? And he was just flying at him with his hair on fire and goes for his like ankle. I'm like, dude, like just and I'm not newsflash, I'm not a linebacker. I don't know what I'm talking about with this stuff, but it does feel like maybe just kind of reining it in a little bit at times would help with that, playing a little bit more conservatively. But again,
especially when it's not key moments.
Yeah, for sure. And
I bet on that screen to Mooney, I bet they're in something pretty basic, if I recall correctly, too. It looked like there wasn't a ton going on.
It reminded me a lot of, and like guys didn't run into each other, but it reminded me a lot of the Jamar Chase touchdown. And it's just like, yeah, like I don't know what the fix is there, but it feels like you can maybe
use the boundary, use the sideline to your advantage. To quote Terrell Suggs, sidelines better, never miss a tackle.
Yeah, like it feels like you can maybe prevent guys just absolutely just fucking dunking on you and putting you in a multicolored, triple-tiered clown suit.
It's always over pursuit, like that Jonathan Taylor touchdown. They always overrun, and a lot of times it's DBs in space.
Yeah, and maybe that's a youth thing with some of these young guys that they're running out there at DB, but you got to fix it. If you're not going to tackle, like, just kind of do a basic thing with tackling, then at least don't let them just kill you over the top every single game. Because that is, as far as like talking about the defense and not giving up points, those are examples of them literally giving up points on plays, doing that kind of shit. So can't have it.
Straight up 6 points.
Yeah.
Not giving up a big play, giving up 6 points. Chuck Clark has done I know that today he got, didn't have a great tackle attempt, but like last week he went and ran down Albert Wilson. He's been able to run a lot of those down. He ran down a couple of them last week, but yeah, some of those younger guys. Brandon Stevens is having the same issue that Patrick Queen had. And again, I think that it has to do with a psychological life is short, run to the ball. That is the Ravens mantra. There's so many anecdotes about Haloti Ngata gets drafted and Terrell Suggs ran by him on the field in the regular season and was like, what are you doing? Run to the fucking ball during a play. And I think that is part of that identity that I speak about what the Ravens franchise is. And I think that it has gone to the detriment of making these young players feel like they have to be a bat out of hell every single time. And then they just overrun. So toning it back, like you said, playing neutral, staying square, playing calmly. And like I said, pop up, find that nice, easy way to get it done. And it's just not, they don't have a lot of time left. These practices during the week are very light. Guys are beat up. You're worried more about, low impact and maintenance. They're not having, they'll probably have like 3 more, maybe 2 more tackling practices the entire year, I bet, if that. So at this point, there's not that much that you can really fix fundamentally, but you just have to get guys in the right mindset, work on their mentals, make sure they stack their chickens, to quote Marshawn Lynch.
Absolutely.
Big Papa Bear Robinson. Mark Andrews is an elite tight end, and people need to put respect on that man's name. He's top 5, of course, but Kelsey's probably still better than him, I would say. Waller's very talented, but Andrews is blocking like a fucking madman and has been so consistent. Today, there's that funky play that ends up with an interception. Everybody went apeshit about that play. It hit Andrews. He's making all these sliding catches all the time and tries to go, get one in his breadbasket. He's a big dude with big limbs and a big chest.
His first throw, he airmails it, and Andrews just Odells it. And like
unbelievable catch. He's done that multiple times. He had one of those for Lamar against the Colts, and then he got rocked.
Yeah. So yeah, he's really showing up. I'm loving what I'm seeing.
Adam Jones 357. After that holding penalty on Villanueva at the end, tell me, does the ball lie? Ball don't lie, baby. Ball never lies.
It doesn't. And Andy Dalton, you can put that in your whatever pipe and smoke it.
2 demons that the Ravens have conquered are late game Andy Dalton when he's frisky, as well as the Kansas City Chiefs this year.
Yeah, so, Andy Dalton, you can put that in your pipe that you're unable to locate because it's in your luggage that somehow got misplaced wherever you were going, and smoke it when you find that pipe, which you won't because your luggage is missing.
Z Zoller, on to the Browns, baby. Got tickets in section 123. I'll wonder if it's ABC as well. K. Gideon, great win. O-line once again will be the reason the Ravens get bounced. I don't disagree with that at all. NRKK, how the F is this team supposed to do anything if they can't stay healthy? That is the sport that they play, man. It's a violent sport. A lot of athletes that are bigger and stronger than their ligaments are by genetics. And guys get dehydrated. Guys, sometimes someone puts a helmet into a knee. Sometimes a TJ Watt rolls on into an ankle and takes out 2 seasons of an all-pro tackle. Yeah, it's tough. Usually the healthiest teams go the deepest in the playoffs.
For sure.
Austin Wagner, what's the game look like without all the last-minute injury/illness? Like I said, I think the Ravens just score 1 or 2 more touchdowns, and I think the defensive performance is probably somewhat similar overall. Maybe not the late game touchdown, but something similar. 10, 13 points allowed, and I think maybe a garbage time touchdown if the Ravens are up a little bit more. I think it would have looked a little bit more like the Broncos game, a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good comparison. Maybe a couple big plays that kind of prove the difference and prove the difference in quality of roster.
For sure. Wink blitzing on 4th and 11. Like, why? Houseway, Alejandro sucks. Okay. Yeah, that about does it for the mailbag on Instagram. Appreciate you guys on there. We got a nice little mailbag. Couple nice mailbags this week. We haven't done any of those lately, so good to talk with all you guys. We appreciate all the questions as always. And I think the overarching sentiment from Jake and I is just like we just heard, this team is probably capped unless Lamar goes Super Saiyan coming back and makes a Super Bowl run, does something like Joe Flacco did in 2012, which has only really happened, I think, twice in NFL history. So it's hard to bank on that with Montana and Flacco. So
maybe I think Foles might have 11 too.
If it's 9, it's the same thing. If Foles was unconscious, so same thing. Maybe there's 4 of those postseason runs. So it's to group those 3 guys together: Nick Foles, Joe Montana, and Joe Flacco. That should tell you the randomness of that and the randomness of this sport, and the injury bug can take its toll, and all of those finer points as well. But ultimately, at the end of the day, this Ravens team made a play on special teams. They, had a silly turnover, but they didn't have dumb turnovers. They made some mistakes, but did enough to get it done. They've
defense forced a turnover in their own right,
forced a fumble as well. What the fuck is up with the interceptions, man? That's the only thing that was starting to irritate me. I was doing my best to just be like, if they lose, they lose. If they win, awesome. They just can't buy an interception. The Bears have an interception where the DB is laying on his back and the ball falls onto his tummy and into his arm. Like, how many times did Justin Fields have like an angle off and the ball got tipped or something, and it doesn't ever just fall into someone's lap, ever? And then I was talking with my buddy and I was like, well, maybe there's a reason why Ed Reed is the only one to have like 30 of those. Maybe there's a lot more skill to that than you think.
There's a gene. There's something, because Marcus Peters gets them and other people don't, and Ed Reed gets them and other people don't.
It's something in the brain, right place, right time, able to read, able to understand where they can see into the matrix, understand where the ball is going to go, how it might be overthrown, and where it'll end up going, things like that. So it's genius. Football players can make those. At the same time, like, they just can't buy interceptions, man. They really can't. It's crazy.
And that's tough when you can't really generate a lot of consistent pass rush, or at least sacks. It's tough not to have one of those two. But they're somehow making it work on the scoreboard.
Also, shout out to Calais Campbell for that incredible acting job to prevent the 12-man penalty. Project Pat on 3rd and 1, just bludgeoning guys. He gets hit 2 yards in the backfield. For a split second, I was in shock because it looked like they really stalemated him. Took one step and then just leaned on those sons of guns and churned forward.
You see the replay angle from the sideline, and it's like, oh yeah, he's actually like 3 times the size of these clowns, and he's just gonna fucking plow his way through.
Like, it was like a linebacker and a DB, and he just ran right through them. That screen, oh my god, that screen. Huntley has this thing, and he did it in the preseason. And I remember we had discourse about this on this podcast. He only throws fastballs, only throws fastballs throughout the game. He started, Sammy Watkins was a touch pass late, some of those things, but I mean, he ripped that ball at Ricard.
He's just like, what is going on? Like, yeah.
It's 300-pound Ricard. Like, he literally can't move his limbs in that hand-eye reflex like a receiver. Like, he had no shot. And that happens with Andrews sometimes. He's so large, but
That was going to be such a fun play too if
They had, it was 2-on-1 and it was completely blocked up, and then it was going to be Ricard in a full sprint, and he's not slow. Like, he's not fast, but he's not slow. That was going to be electric. That was going to be Electric City. So we were robbed of that one. But good things coming. A couple of nice plays I want to shout out to. You know, they did the Ravens have run that play where it's like a fake quarterback sweep play action. They almost got the Titans on it last year. They ended up getting someone on it. The Broncos on it this year, the Lions maybe, and it got called back, I think, for what should have been a touchdown. Maybe, I don't know who it was. And then they ran that same thing, and they had Andrews break in instead of running up the sideline. So a couple nice scripted plays there, some nice things to Duvernay, and I think Rashad Bateman played a good game as well overall. I think he drew 2 penalties today.
I think just the one. I could
just
be
the
wrong.
one. Is there not a whole? Maybe I'm just thinking of random stuff. I don't know, but I think just like we said, you know, all those skill position guys for the most part.
The Y leak to Andrews. That's like my favorite play.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So saw some good things. The run game was nice. I think Devontae Freeman, you know, he doesn't have that maybe a 4th or a 5th gear at all, but continues to carve guys up in the middle, work through trash. I think they've got a nice 1-2 with him and Murray. Murray is just that gigantic 240-pound back that just is like a shark, just zombie mind, doesn't think, and will just hit a hole.
4 yards at you know, every time. It's like, if you need 4 yards, I'll get you 4 yards. If you need 5 yards, I'll get you 4 yards.
Right.
And that's fine.
Exactly. So I think those guys are okay considering how dire circumstances were, but got to give a shout out to Tyus Bowser. Got to give a shout out to Marlon. I think Marlon Humphrey played a nice game in this one. Had a couple pass breakups as well. He didn't really get beat much. From what I saw, we'll go back and see what goes on. But Justin Houston and Tyus Bowser kicked some ass in the pass rushing game. Houston now has sacks in back-to-back weeks. Bowser has 4.5 sacks on the year and is doing a good job overall. So I'm excited to see those guys. I want to see Tyus Bowser rush the passer more. A lot of discourse on the whole Judon, Smith, whatever, and that's a whole wormhole we can go down into. Maybe we'll do that maybe later in the week, but I would like to see Bowser rush more. I think he's developed really nicely as a rusher. He has a lot of similarities to Judon as a rusher. He just has a speed rip that's really good, and he has good hand placement, and he hustles his tail off, and he's really athletic. So I like that speed rip. I like his hand fighting. I think he's improved there, and I think throughout the course of this contract, we're going to see him continue to blossom into a really nice player. He was freaking sick today. I honestly might get his jersey because of this game. Had a ton of fun watching him. And this was an incredible win. I had a blast. Amazing ending. Amazing game. The entertainment value was through the fucking roof. You are getting what you paid for with these Ravens this year. Aside from the Dolphins game, you are getting your money's worth with this team. So Browns coming to town, divisional time, Steelers, then Browns again. Going to be a hell of a ride over the next couple of weeks. We are here. We are ready. We are going to have fun. We would definitely want to have listeners come meet up for the Browns game this upcoming weekend. So stay tuned for that. We'll post some stuff on Twitter. And again, when we come back, whenever that is, I don't know, Jake and I will work out the logistics of, we're not going to record on Thanksgiving. I don't know if we'll record Friday. I don't know if we'll record Wednesday. Maybe, I don't know. We'll figure it out. But stay tuned for that stuff. We definitely want to have you guys come meet up and have a beer and talk some ball, talk some Succession, talk some life, talk some whatever. So stay tuned for that as well.
Yeah, exactly. I think very well summed up by you to just enjoy it. I think that is probably the main point that I think we want you to take away from this episode is to enjoy the ride and not get too bogged down and worrying about firing coordinators and X, Y, and Z. This team is duct taped together. It is held together by paper clips and bubble gum and whatever else. It is limping home. It is trying to make it back to it's flying back from, I think I made this analogy already, but it's flying back from fucking deep Germany after a bombing run. It's barely holding itself together. It's trying to make it to the cliffs of Dover and find its airfield. It's struggling right now, talent wise, but you got good coaching in the form of their head coach, the coordinators. You can say what you want about them. They're getting it done to an extent as well. And they got an it factor about them that makes them incredibly fun to watch and makes me incredibly thankful that I'm a fan of this year and I'm enjoying it. So just, be thankful that you've gotten this experience up to this point and be ready for what's going to be a difficult stretch of football down the stretch here. You got some tough games coming up. You got a lot of divisional games coming up. It's going to be wild. So enjoy this Thanksgiving. Eat your heart out, enjoy lots of beers, enjoy the football, and enjoy your time off from work. Should you be lucky enough to have the full 4 days. If you're not, enjoy the time that you do get, and screw your boss for making you work Black Friday. And yeah, that's pretty much all I got. And I'll, shout out, if we're doing shout outs, shout out to Tyler Huntley, because that ideally that's the last time we see him for a while. And that kid got it done. God damn it, he got it done in the face of pretty much the entire universe. So good for him.
Yep. And ultimately, this team might have a little hope on the horizon for maybe some of these guys that missed this week, as Ben Cleveland has trickled back in. Looks like Sammy Watkins starting to feel himself a little. Nick Boyle's going to get fired up. A lot of guys coming back, hopefully. We'll see about Brandon Williams. I think Jelly Ellis has done a hell of a job replacing him, but there's some hope on the horizon, and Ravens don't need to win a ton of more games to make it to the dance at this point. There's a lot of 5-win teams, and how many 7-win teams are there in the AFC? The Chiefs.
They're the number 2 seed right now.
Yeah, it's the Chiefs, the Ravens, and the Titans are the only teams in the AFC with 7 wins. So they're sitting pretty. They need to win a couple more games, but 10-7, 11-6, probably going to do it. Punch that ticket. They want the division. They want the title. They want Lamar Jackson to come back. Hopefully he can just fully sleep and sleep all the sleepies.
Underrated thing here, it will have been 18 days between him playing football, assuming he comes back healthy and ready to go.
And that's going to be what? That's going to give him fresh legs.
There you go. And that's all I need in life.
Yep. So hopefully he gets hydrated, able to come back. Got Nick Boyle back, got Ben Cleveland back in there. Patrick McCary came back today. He was certainly rusty, but that's to be expected when you miss time. We saw Watkins be rusty last week. We saw Nick Boyle be a little rusty today. So the Pats are also 7-4, pardon me. So there's 4 teams, and the Ravens are one of them in their conference right now. The Browns are beatable as hell. We'll see what happens in the next 3 weeks with them, as well as the Steelers team that is getting routed. So the Ravens are in a good place, and we're excited to continue to bring you guys these episodes, content, and all that good stuff. We appreciate you listening. Shout out to ZooBoot Wallets. If you have not checked out ZooBoot Wallets, you are a fool. Go get yourself the game day wallet. Go get yourself an RFID aluminum wallet. It can hold up to 12 cards, has a nice little finger slip, a money clip. You can customize it with any picture. You can buy the podcast Beatdown wallet at zooboot.com/podcast beatdown. You can use the code podcast beatdown for 15% off of any ZooBoot wallet. A great stocking stuffer, a great wallet to take to the bar or go for a run or for any special occasion. If you have a turkey trot or if you have a holiday party or something of the sort and you want to have a little party favor, something nice. If your dad's got the old tri-fold beat to crap wallet, you're looking for something he might actually like, go get him that wallet. And that's a nice little present. If you're struggling to think of gifts, go ahead and take 15% off using the code podcast beatdown. We appreciate them. We appreciate you. And I think that does it for us.
Shout out to ZooBoot. That does do it for us. Enjoy your Thanksgiving, guys. We'll talk to you again. Previewing this game, like we said, we don't know the exact scheduling, but we'll figure it out. So talk to you then, and see ya.
See ya.
Arrivederci.